You're driving to work tomorrow morning when you hear it on the radio. Automotive giant shuts down all operations. 50,000 workers locked out without warning. You think that's impossible? Car companies don't just disappear overnight. But in the last century, that exact scenario played out 10 times. 10 major automakers gone, just like that. We're talking about luxury car builders that made vehicles more expensive than houses, bankrupt in 24 hours. Independent manufacturers that employed entire cities, shuttered without warning. Companies that invented technologies we still use today, erased from history. I'm counting down these 10 automotive apocalypses, but this isn't just history class. This is your crash course in spotting which car companies are next. Because by the end of this video, you'll know the secret formula that predicts automotive death and why your favorite car brand might not survive the year. Number 10, Duesenberg, 1937. Let's start with the most expensive car company in American history. Duesenberg didn't just build cars, they built rolling mansions. A Duesenberg cost $17,000 in 1937. The average American made $1,300 a year. That's like buying a $900,000 car today, except worse. Gary Cooper drove one. Clark Gable owned 3. When people said it's a doozy, they meant Duesenberg. These cars had 320 horsepower when most cars barely made 60. They were hand-built by master craftsmen. Each one took 6 months to complete. But here's the problem. They lost money on every single car. Think about that. The most expensive car in America was a money-losing disaster. It's like if Bugatti went bankrupt selling $3 million hypercars. Oh wait, that almost happened. Duesenberg thought luxury would always find a market. They were wrong. In 1937, they built their last car and quietly disappeared. The most exclusive brand in America, gone. But wait until you see what happened to the company that invented front-wheel drive 50 years before Honda. Number 9, Cord, 1937. Cord was Tesla before Tesla existed. They built the first successful front-wheel drive car in 1929. The Cord 810 looked like it came from the future. Hidden headlights, no running boards, sleek aerodynamic body. It was so advanced that other car companies studied it for decades. But being first doesn't guarantee success. Just ask MySpace. Cord's problem? Their revolutionary engineering was too expensive. Each car cost more to build than they could sell it for. Sound familiar, Rivian? The company burned through money faster than a crypto startup in 2022. In 1937, Cord joined Duesenberg in the automotive graveyard. Innovation without profit is just expensive art. But the next company on our list proves that even building the most beautiful cars in America won't save you. Number 8, Auburn, 1937. Auburn built cars that belonged in museums. The Auburn 851 Speedster was guaranteed to hit 100 miles per hour. They put a plaque on the dashboard to prove it. These cars were gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Instagram would have loved them, but pretty doesn't pay the bills. Auburn was hemorrhaging money on every car they built. They were the automotive equivalent of a fashion startup that spends $200 to make a $50 t-shirt. Here's the crazy part. Auburn, Cord, and Duesenberg were all owned by the same guy. Eric Cord. He was like Elon Musk, but with worse business sense. In 1937, all 3 of his companies died in the same year. 90 years of automotive history, gone. But at least those companies built cars for rich people. The next company built cars for presidents. Number 7, Pierce Arrow, 1938. Pierce Arrow was America's Rolls-Royce. They built cars for presidents, kings, and oil barons. Their cars were so exclusive they didn't even have model names. Just years. You didn't buy a Pierce Arrow sedan. You bought a 1938 Pierce Arrow. Every car was hand-built to order. The paint alone took 30 coats applied by hand. But here's their fatal mistake. They confused exclusivity with sustainability. Pierce Arrow was building maybe 200 cars a year. They needed to sell each one for $5,000 just to break even. The market for $5,000 cars in 1938? About 50 people. It's like trying to run a business selling only to billionaires. There just aren't enough of them. In 1938, workers showed up to find the factory gates chained shut. No warning, no severance, no explanation. 49 years of automotive excellence ended with a padlock. But the Great Depression wasn't done killing car companies, and the next wave of failures proves that even good ideas can destroy you. Number 6, Crosley, 1952. Powell Crosley had a brilliant idea: tiny cars for tiny budgets. The Crosley car weighed 1,100 pounds and got 50 miles per gallon. It cost $888 brand new. That's like buying a car for $8,000 today. Crosley was basically building the Prius in 1948, except Americans didn't want it. Post-war America wanted big cars, huge cars, cars that screamed, "We won the war and we're rich." Crosley was selling smart cars to people who wanted Hummers. He sold 24,000 cars in 1948. Ford sold 430,000. But here's the tragic part. Crosley quit in 1952, just as the Korean War was creating demand for fuel-efficient cars. He was 10 years too early with the right idea. In the car business, that's the same as being wrong. It's like launching TikTok in 2005. Great idea, terrible timing. But the next company had everything: money, connections, and a legendary founder. They still failed. Number 5, Kaiser-Frazer, 1955. Henry Kaiser was basically the Elon Musk of the 1940s. He'd built the Hoover Dam, the San Francisco Bay Bridge, more Liberty ships than anyone thought possible. If anyone could start a new car company, it was Henry Kaiser. He raised $50 million and planned to capture 10% of the American market. The Kaiser and Frazer cars were actually pretty good, well built, reliable, innovative, but good wasn't good enough. The big three had deeper pockets, better dealers, and decades of experience. It's like trying to compete with Apple, Google, and Microsoft with a startup. Kaiser-Frazer burned through $50 million in 5 years. They tried everything: sports cars, economy cars, even a bizarre fiberglass car called the Kaiser-Darren. Nothing worked. In 1955, they gave up on cars and focused on Jeeps. The dream of challenging Detroit was dead. But the most heartbreaking failures were still coming. Companies that had survived for decades, about to make fatal mistakes. Number 4, Nash, 1957. Nash Motors had been building cars since 1916. They invented air conditioning, unibody construction, the compact car. They were innovators, pioneers, survivors. But by the 1950s, they were struggling against the big three's economies of scale. So they tried something desperate: a merger with Hudson. Two struggling companies thought they could save each other. It's like when two failing startups merge and call it synergy. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. The merger created confusion instead of strength. Nash buyers didn't want Hudson cars. Hudson buyers didn't want Nash cars. By 1957, both brands were dead. Nash's last car rolled off the line on July 25th, 1957. Workers were told it was temporary. It wasn't. The company that had survived the Great Depression and World War II couldn't survive corporate marriage. But Nash wasn't the only victim of that doomed merger. Number 3, Hudson, 1957. Hudson was the king of NASCAR. Their cars dominated American racetracks in the early 1950s. The Hudson Hornet won 27 out of 34 NASCAR races in 1952. They were fast, they were beautiful, they were winners. But success on the racetrack doesn't guarantee success in the showroom. Hudson was losing money on every car they built, so they merged with Nash to form American Motors Corporation. Big mistake. The merger that was supposed to save both companies killed them instead. Hudson's last car was built on June 25th, 1957. Workers thought it was just a temporary shutdown for retooling. It wasn't. The Hudson name, which had graced some of America's fastest cars, was retired forever. It's like if Ferrari and Lamborghini merged and then both brands disappeared. But the most shocking failure was still coming. One of America's most prestigious luxury brands about to make the worst business decision in automotive history. Number 2, Packard, 1958. Packard was the choice of presidents. 12 US presidents drove Packards. Movie stars loved them. Industrial titans collected them. "Ask the man who owns one" was their slogan. For 50 years, that was all the advertising they needed. Packard built cars that lasted forever. Their engineering was legendary. But in 1954, they made a fatal mistake. They merged with Studebaker. It's like if Rolls-Royce merged with Kia. Studebaker was struggling and needed Packard's money. Packard needed Studebaker's manufacturing capacity. On paper, it made sense. In reality, it was a disaster. Studebaker's problems were worse than anyone knew. Instead of saving Studebaker, the merger dragged Packard down. Packard's quality suffered. Their image was damaged. Their customers felt betrayed and started buying Cadillacs. The last real Packard was built in 1956. After that, Studebaker just put Packard badges on their own cars. It was automotive fraud. Everyone knew it. In 1958, the Packard name was retired. 59 years of American luxury, gone. But the most shocking failure of all was saved for last. Number 1. Studebaker, 1966. Studebaker had been building vehicles since 1852. They started with wagons, moved to carriages, finally to cars. They were one of America's oldest manufacturers. They built the first car with electric lights. They created the first modern assembly line. They designed some of the most beautiful cars ever made. But Studebaker had a problem. They were too small to compete and too proud to quit. By the 1960s, you needed to build 200,000 cars a year to be profitable. Studebaker was building maybe 50,000. They tried everything: economy cars, sports cars, trucks. They moved to Canada, hired new management, reorganized a dozen times. Nothing worked. By 1966, they were building fewer than 9,000 cars a year. The end was inevitable. On March 17, 1966, the last Studebaker rolled off the line. It was a blue 4-door sedan. The worker who built it didn't know it was the last one. Nobody did. The next day, Studebaker announced they were done. After 114 years, they were getting out of the car business. Workers found out when they showed up and found the gates locked. No warning, no severance, just a sign that said closed. And here's the thing that should terrify you. Every single one of these companies thought they were different. They thought the rules didn't apply to them. They thought innovation and history would save them. They were wrong. The modern warning signs. So what can we learn from these 10 failures? First, confusing prestige with profit. Building expensive cars that lose money is a recipe for disaster. Second, misreading the market. Building what you want instead of what people will buy. Third, believing good products guarantee success. They don't. Fourth, underestimating the competition. The big players have advantages you can't imagine. Fifth, merger desperation. Two broken companies don't make one successful company. And here's the scary part. These same patterns are happening right now. Tesla almost went bankrupt in 2018. Rivian went public with a $100 billion valuation despite never making a profit. Lucid Motors is building $200,000 electric cars for a market that might not exist. It's not just cars. WeWork thought they could revolutionize real estate by calling themselves a tech company. Theranos claimed they could revolutionize blood testing with technology that didn't work. Peloton thought they could build a subscription business around exercise bikes. All of them confused hype with value. All of them ignored basic business fundamentals. And all of them learned the hard way that vision without execution is just expensive dreaming. The brutal truth. Look, I know this is depressing. 10 iconic companies, gone forever. But here's what really keeps me up at night. We're not learning from these mistakes. We're repeating them. Every few years, new companies make the same fatal errors. They think they're different. They think the rules don't apply. They think innovation trumps everything else. And then they disappear, just like Duesenberg, Auburn, Cord, Pierce Arrow, Crosley, Kaiser-Frazer, Nash, Hudson, Packard, and Studebaker. The automotive graveyard is full of companies that thought they were too big to fail. They weren't. And neither are today's darlings. But here's what's really terrifying. While these companies were failing because of bad business decisions, there was something else killing drivers. Something the car companies knew about but kept hidden for decades. A design flaw so deadly that it killed more Americans than some wars. And when the truth finally came out, it changed the automotive industry forever. If you want to know the shocking story of America's deadliest design flaw and how the government finally forced Builder to admit the truth, you need to watch my next video. I'll link it right here. And if you want to see more stories about the business lessons hidden in automotive disasters, hit that subscribe button. Because the best way to avoid repeating history is to learn from it. What do you think? Are today's electric vehicle startups making the same mistakes? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.